Good evening to each and everyone. So for today's discussion, we will tackle and discuss about the Article 11 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, which is about the accountability of public offices. So the scope and limitation of the Article 11 is a public office is a public trust. And we can find this scope and limitation to the section 1 of the Article 11, which is, it's stated here that public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the employee, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives. So, with this statement, it mentioned here that if you are one of the employee or officials in a governmental function, you should have this kind of responsibility like integrity, loyalty, and efficiency to have a better nation. So next is strength and weaknesses of the Article 11 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution of accountability of public offices. First is a public office is a public trust. Second one is it is not a property. And the third one is it is not a contract. So as I've mentioned earlier that one of our strengths and weaknesses is a public office is a public trust. So unsa man jud ani ang public office? So ang public office it is created by a constitution or a legislative act having a definite and when involving the power of governmental function. O ginatawag po ni siya nga public trust, it is because that the government has trusted all the employees and officials to each of their positions nga dapat sila mga lagad sa mga katawhan nga ni suporta og nisalig nila para sa kanunay kahimtang.
Public office is a public trust. Functions and policies. First, significance of a constitutional declaration. So, for us to understand deeply, we need to know the meaning of constitutional and the word declaration. So, according to Google, constitutional is refers to one's constitution or physical makeup, and declaration is a statement made by a court clarifying the law or the rights and obligations of one party to another. So, in short, constitutional declaration is a statement of the Constitution made by a court clarifying the law or the rights and obligations of one party to another. A declaration in the Constitution is necessary or important as it will always serve as a reminder to public officers of their sacred character of their task. So, sacred, when you say sacred, it's holy, balaan, banal, dili kayagayagaan. And the task of the public officer is to serve the people. To serve the people. And constitutional declaration at the same time a warning that violation thereof would be nothing less than a sacrilege. Sacrilege means violation or the misuse of what is regarded as sacred. So, for example, if when people feel or see that the government's action or law has denied their rights or a law contradicts a section of the Constitution, they may seek a declaration from the courts deciding the issue. Accountability to the people. Section 1 of the Article 11 enunciates the principle of public accountability. It sets down in unequivocal terms the mandate that all government officials and employees, whether they be the highest in the land or the lowliest public servants shall at all times be answerable for their misconduct to the people from whom the government derives its powers. 1. This mandate more directly refers to those who occupy elective positions in the government and who are subject to the judgment of the electorate expressed at periodic elections. 2. It applies indirectly to those holding appointed positions in the judiciary and those who are subject to the supervision and control of the President or his deputies, or the legislative who are in turn accountable to the electorate. 3. Aside from direct removal by the electorate and impeachment by Congress, public officials are held accountable to the people through administrative proceedings initiated by administrative superiors and through criminal prosecutions and civil actions in courts. Two, standards required of public servants. So, any government office is a trust, for it is created for the sole purpose of effecting the end for which the government has been constituted, which is the common good, and not for the profit, honor, or private interest of any one man, family, or class of men. So, it means that the purpose of having the standards, or the sole purpose of the government office is to serve the people with good deeds, and by all good deeds and the good for all the people sa nasasakupan, sa tanang iyang sakop, and not the private interest of any one man, family, or class of men. So A, he is in truth and not merely figuratively the trustee or servant of the people, and as such he is enjoined to serve his office with the highest degree of responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, and at all times be accountable to the people. B, as a public servant, he must act with patriotism, having in mind only the best interest of people he serves. His love for and devotion to country must be beyond question. So, it means that as a public servant, you must make decisions. You must make reasonable decisions. It means, what I meant is, reasonable decisions is dili majority rule ba, kung unsay kaayuhan maayo sa kadaghanan, maunay ng sundon. Then C, in the performance of his duties and functions, and even in private life, he must act with justice by giving everyone his due. He must not practice the so-called palakasan system, whereby favored parties are given undue advantage or preference on the basis of personal, political, and other extraneous considerations. Of course, as a public servant, you must develop a fair treatment. Dili kay nani siya napoy makuha as a public servant. For me, for example na ako ning kuan siya palitan sa kuan, ako siya unahog entertain kay nang duol nang kuan nako pag umangko nako or whatsoever igagaw, then napay nakalinya nga mas una pa niya. So dili na siya di na siya maayo. Dapat you must develop fair treatment to all people regardless of their status, economic status. And in requiring public officers and employees to lead modest lives, the Constitution seeks to make them models of frugality and to put a stop once and for all to the scandalous spectacle in the past, when government officials, especially those occupying sensitive positions, practically flaunted their opulence by indulging in thoughtless wastefulness and extravagance well beyond their known means of income in the midst of the poverty and want of many of their countrymen. So, the third one is conflict of interest to be avoided. So, accordingly, public officers should not place himself or herself in a position his loyalty to the people may clash with his loyalty to his own interest or those of his family or his associates. So it means wala tayo favoritism ba? Dili ni siya na, as I said earlier, dili ingon nga nakay ka ng advantage ka ba nang think advantage ka ba na kung ano, for example, kung gini na ako ni siyang unahon kay nang kuan ni siya nang dako-dako po ni siyang grangko dito sa ilang kuan niya basing makapangay kog favor pod ana ba. Then the last one, the fourth one, is the prohibitions or disabilities on certain officials. It is precisely to guard the fiduciary nature of public office that the Constitution places certain prohibition in the case of the President, Vice President, members of the Cabinet and their deputies or assistants, the members of Congress, the members of constitutional commissions, and the Ombudsman and his deputies.
Accountability of the people. So, number one, it initiates the people, the public accountability. It sets down in the unequivocal terms that mandate all governments, officials, and employees whether they be the highest in the land or the lowliest public servants shall at all times be answerable for their misconduct to the people from whom the government derives its power. So, number one is mandate more directly refers to those who occupy elective positions in the government and are subject to the judgment of the electorate expressed at periodic elections. And number two, if applies indirectly to those holding appointive positions in the judiciary and those who are subject to the supervision and control of the president or his deputies or the legislative who are in turn accountable to the electorate. And lastly, aside from direct removal by the electorate and impeachment by the Congress, public official are held accountable to the people through administrative proceedings initiated by administrative superiors and through criminal prosecutions and civil actions in courts. So let's move on to the importance or relevance of maintaining public trust in public officers. So there are three, which are the proper maintainable of public affairs, survival of government, and the analogy of popular government to a three. So what is proper maintainable of public affairs? So it is essential to the general welfare and necessary to the preservation of the government at public affairs be properly administered. Next is the survival of government. So it is where the public officers thus chosen are irresponsible, dishonest, or of doubtful loyalty, inefficient, or unreasonable. The government itself loses the faith and confidence of the people. Consequently, the government becomes ineffective. And lastly, analogy of popular government to a three. So story building, where the foundation is the people, The first story is the Constitution, which is the expression of their sovereignty. Second is the official dome, or a group of caretakers. A group of caretakers of the edifice. And the third, the highest, is found the altar, wherein zealously kept unguarded the mystic fire which symbolizes faith of the people. And that's all for our report. Thank you for listening.